Hi guys, it's Christine Betts, and I'm super excited today to be with my friend Mark Roby. Mark Roby is actually the author of Lifelines to Cancer Survival. He also is an integrative specialist, and he's also known as the cancer strategist. And I actually met Mark about a month ago. I was at a health expo, and he was there with his wife promoting his book, and I picked the book up, thumbed through it, talked to Mark for a few minutes, and immediately I knew that Mark was somebody that I wanted to partner with and collaborate with, because as you guys all know my story and my passion, that I want people to be more educated, be more aware of their options, and live the healthiest versions of themselves. And Mark shares the exact same mindset. And what's even more fascinating is Mark's story and what he's been through with his own battle with cancer. And so I'm super excited for you all to hear his story, to hear what he shares in his book. And I promise you that if you have somebody that is facing cancer right now, or honestly, all of us should hear this, because 7 out of 8 out of us, or 7 out of 8 people are touched by cancer. So Mark, I would love for you to share with them your background and your training so they know what you come from.
Okay. I graduated from Central Michigan University with a Bachelor of Science. I went to a physician's assistant program in a medical school called Toro College in New York City. I got out sometime in the 1980s. I got a diploma in natural medicine from a school in Indiana.
Okay.
And I've been teaching integrative medicine for the past 20 years. I was on the staff of Montefiore Hospital, that's the Albert Einstein School of Medicine's teaching hospital in New York. And then I was also on the emergency medicine staff at Henry Ford Hospital here in Michigan.
Okay.
So that's my background.
Well, okay, so a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, Mark. So basically, what happened to you, and why did you even write this book?
Well, back in 2002, in the winter of 2002, I was jogging after working, and when I came home, I collapsed. I couldn't breathe very well at all, and I had like a sword. It felt like a sword going through my side, my ribs, and my stomach. And I made it to a large medical center, and I was there all night. They thought I had an acute abdomen. They couldn't give me anything for pain. Okay. And they did tests the next day. They said it looks really bad. I would call your family, and so they called my dad. And the physician came over, the ER doc, and he said, Mark, it just looks bad. You've got cancer all over your liver and lungs. And he said, we're going to keep you here for 4 or 5 days to find the etiology of the cancer. And it just got worse from there. 4 days later, they couldn't find, through scans, they couldn't find the etiology, so then they did some biopsies. I was hypotensive and I was very sick, and so they couldn't give me anesthetic. So they went in and they spent 45 or 55 minutes in my chest and abdomen. And the next day, the oncologist came in. He said, Mark, he said, I'm sorry, but you have one of the rarest sarcomas in the world. You have one of the rarest cancers in the world. It's all over your liver and lungs, and it's unresponsive to all known therapy. So that's how my journey started. And it just seemed to get worse and worse and worse, from then on.
Sure. And so at that point, you learned so much, because I know you said that this book is compiled of 7 years of research that you did yourself to save your life. So what was the, I guess, should I say, the life-changing event through this journey that made you realize, because Mark has a quote in his book that I love where he states, you basically have to be your own CEO of your life and of your health, and that's so critical and so true. So what was that event that occurred when you were like, okay, that's it, I'm taking my life into my own hands?
Well, I'll tell you, I went to 4 other major cancer centers after this within a few weeks. Then I went down to MD Anderson, and all I was given was, they could call hospice because I was getting sicker, or give me palliative interferon therapy, which is a biological chemo. It's very strong. And so I was on 10 million units every other day, which is a huge amount of interferon. And it landed me in the hospital. But the event was around the 6th week of getting this treatment, laying in the hospital. While I was laying there in the ozone, my oncologist came over and he said, Mark, he said, I don't understand why you've gone all these different places the past, 6 or 7 weeks since you got hit. He said, nothing is going to work, including this interferon.
Going through your head when you left the office of your doctor telling you to go take a 2-month vacation and enjoy your last remaining 2 months? What was going through your head?
Well, I was in shock. I was in emotional shock. I couldn't actually believe he said that.
Yeah.
So I tried to get as far away from him in that center as I could. I couldn't believe it. I was dumbfounded. And I thought to myself, what is he telling other patients? And I found out that indeed meeting some more of his patients in a different medical center, he was telling them the same thing. So I was very distraught, I was angry, and I was upset. But the more I thought about it, I thought, I don't want other people to hear those words. Just basically just give up. And I thought that it gave me more impetus to stay alive.
Absolutely.
It did. I was angry, but it was a good anger because it made me realize that I had to find my own way.
Absolutely. So, I guess, Mark, and like I said, we're going to get into more in the next segments about, specifically what you share in your book, but at that point going forward, what did you decide that you needed to do to stay alive?
Well, talking to that exact point that you're talking about, I was lucky enough to pay a researcher at MD Anderson in Houston to take me into his home office. And he studied these type of sarcomas. He said, Mark, for 2 hours he talked to me and looked at my scans, and he said, you're going to have to keep yourself alive. You're going to have to keep your own self alive. And he said, if I were you, I would come up with 3 contingency plans after you study your tumor. At all times, on the table, past what you're doing now. So currently, I'm on the 4th, I call it in the book, I call it the triad of survival.
Okay.
Cancer patients have never heard of this. And what I did is I sent out my urine to Dr. Judah Folkman's lab in Boston. He is the father of angiogenesis and targeted therapy.
Okay.
I found out that there was VEGF, that there was a biomarker in my urine that was driving my cancer.
Okay.
I found out I had inflammatory markers done.
Okay.
And I found out that I had a lot of inflammation in my body. So I addressed that with nutrition and other modalities. And I went to integrative medicine, immune institutes on the West Coast, down by San Diego. And so I went on this journey of that, plus clinical trials, plus when I had no other options left, I found a chemo in Europe that my colleagues behind closed doors were giving to me to keep me alive in between treatments and clinical trials and so on. So, and I did way more than that I'm telling you now. But so this book took me 7 years to write, and it's not all about me and my life. It's cutting edge, novel, new advances that you can do right now, that you can do on your tumor. on your blood, the biomarkers, the genetic markers, the evidence-based anti-cancer nutrition, it's all in the book. The lifelines are at the end of the chapter. Blam, you can, on Kindle or on the book, you can go right to the labs around the country. The clinicians that do this type of work are right in the book.
And I think, is like I said, we're going to get into more detail today, you guys. I just wanted to introduce Mark. I wanted you to get basically an understanding of what his background is and what he was faced with in his own life. But when we get into the segments that we're going to be offering in the upcoming weeks, the information is going to blow your mind. Because some of the things that Mark did, you're going to be like, I never even heard of that. I'm not even aware of that. And that is what our mission is because, as you know, up until 4 years ago, I never even really uttered the word cancer much. But when it hits your family, or if you're ever diagnosed yourself, I promise you that this is going to be one of the resources that you're going to want to tap into. So I'm super excited. Mark's got tons of information we're going to share over the next upcoming weeks. But I just want to basically introduce Mark today. It was so great chatting with you. And stay tuned, you guys, for a lot more information on how you can become the CEO of your life.